Imagine being thousands of miles from home, defeated, starving, and then handed a brown, sticky paste that smells like nothing you've ever known. For thousands of Japanese prisoners in 1945, this wasn't just strange food. It was a moment that challenged everything they believed. Some refused to touch it. Others broke down in tears. But one reaction stunned American guards completely. Hidden in that jar was a cultural collision that still affects East-West relations today. And the Japanese military knew about peanut butter before the war ended, issuing a classified order kept secret for 30 years. Here's what really happened in those first 48 hours. August 15, 1945, Emperor Hirohito announces Japan's surrender over radio. His voice shakes. Millions of Japanese soldiers around the Pacific hear these words. For them, this moment is unthinkable. Surrender was never an option they considered. Death before dishonor, they were taught. But now the war is over, and they lost. Within days, American soldiers arrive at temporary prison camps with supply trucks. The back doors swing open, revealing crates of food, medicine, blankets, and other supplies. Japanese prisoners stand in organized lines. Silent, scared, confused. They expect punishment. They expect torture. They've been told stories about the brutal Americans, stories about how enemies are treated. Some prisoners shake with fear. A few close their eyes, preparing for the worst. But something different happens. American soldiers don't raise weapons. They don't shout or threaten. Instead, they start handing out supplies. Real supplies. Food that smells fresh. Clean blankets. Medical kits. The prisoners look at each other, bewildered. Is this a trick? A cruel game before the real punishment begins? Among the rations, there are brown glass jars with colorful labels. The words are in English. Peanut butter, it says clearly. But none of the prisoners can read English. None of them have ever seen this product before. They hold the jars carefully, turning them over in their hands. The weight feels substantial. Something real inside. The smell is the first shock. When they twist open the metal lids, a strange aroma fills the air. Sweet but not like fruit. Earthy but not like vegetables. Thick and heavy, unlike anything in Japanese cuisine. Some prisoners lean back, unsure about this odd scent. Others sniff cautiously, trying to identify what they're smelling. American guards try to help. They make hand gestures, spreading motions with invisible knives. They smile and point to their mouths. It's good, they say in English. Try it, you'll like it. But the prisoners just stare blankly. The language barrier is complete. The cultural gap is even wider. Some prisoners step backward, refusing to take the jars. They shake their heads firmly. No. Others accept them with both hands, bowing slightly out of habit, but their faces show deep suspicion. The guards watch closely, curious about how these men will react to this simple American staple. What happens next will shock everyone in that camp. Because one prisoner's response made the entire camp go completely silent. His name was Private Hiroshi Tanaka, 24 years old, short black hair, thin from weeks of limited rations. But unlike many others, he was still strong enough to stand without shaking. Still curious about life, still hopeful somehow despite everything. Hiroshi holds his jar of peanut butter with both hands. He looks at it for a long moment. The other prisoners watch him. He's always been brave, always the first to try new things. Even now, as a prisoner, that part of him survives. He twists the lid. It opens with a small pop. The smell hits him immediately. Strange, unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. He dips his index finger into the thick brown paste. It sticks to his skin. The texture is unlike anything he's touched. Smooth but dense. It doesn't drip. It just clings. Hiroshi brings his finger to his nose, sniffs once, twice. Then, making his decision, he puts his finger in his mouth. His eyes widen immediately. The taste floods his senses. Sweet, salty, rich, creamy. The texture coats his entire mouth. It's thick, sticky, clinging to his teeth and tongue. In Japanese cuisine, there is nothing remotely like this. No food that combines sweet and salty so boldly. No paste made from ground nuts. No texture quite this dense. He stands there processing, chewing slowly, tasting carefully. The other prisoners lean forward, watching his face for clues. Is it poison? Is it safe? Will he get sick? Hiroshi takes another fingerful, then another. He's not just tasting now. He's eating. The hunger that's been gnawing at him for weeks suddenly roars to life. This food is dense with calories. His body knows it needs this. Then something happens that nobody expects. Hiroshi's knees buckle. He drops down to the ground. Not collapsing from sickness, no, he's kneeling deliberately. And then he begins to bow. Deep formal bows. The kind reserved for the highest respect. Over and over he bows toward the American guards. The entire camp goes silent. Complete silence. Even the American guards stop moving. They don't understand what's happening, but they sense its importance. Other prisoners gasp quietly. Some cover their mouths in shock. A few start crying softly, because everyone understands what Hiroshi is doing. In Japanese culture, this type of bow carries deep meaning. It's not casual. It's not simple gratitude. This bow means you saved my life. This bow means I owe you everything. This bow means I see your humanity and honor it. Hiroshi is thanking his enemy publicly in front of everyone, and in Japanese military culture, what he just did was considered the ultimate betrayal. Japanese soldiers were trained according to the Bushido Code, ancient warrior principles that valued honor above all else. Honor above comfort, honor above safety, honor above life itself. These weren't just suggestions. They were absolute rules that governed every action. One rule stood above all others. Never show respect to your enemy. Never bow to them. Never thank them. Never acknowledge their kindness, even if they save your life. Especially if they save your life. Because accepting kindness from your enemy means something terrible. It means you've been defeated not just on the battlefield, but in your heart, in your spirit, in your soul. Hiroshi broke this sacred rule completely, in front of 200 prisoners, in front of dozens of American guards, in broad daylight where everyone could see. There was no hiding it, no denying it, no taking it back. Some of the older prisoners are furious. Their faces turn red with anger. They whisper harsh words in Japanese. Traitor, coward, disgrace to his family. His ancestors are ashamed. These words cut deep in Japanese culture. To bring shame to your family is worse than death. But Hiroshi doesn't stop bowing. He continues. Again and again. His forehead nearly touches the ground each time. Tears stream down his face now. Not tears of shame. Tears of relief. Tears of gratitude. Tears of hope. The American guards finally realize something significant is happening. They don't understand the cultural meaning, but they see the emotion. They see the other prisoners' reactions. One guard calls out, "Sergeant, you need to see this." The commanding officer approaches. He watches Hiroshi bowing. He sees the crying. He notices the angry whispers from other prisoners. "What's going on here?" he asks quietly. Nobody has an answer. The interpreter hasn't arrived yet. All they know is that something about peanut butter has caused a profound reaction. Within an hour, the news spreads through the camp. Someone bowed to the Americans. Someone thanked them. Someone broke the code. Prisoners gather in small groups, arguing in whispers. The camp divides, not physically, but emotionally, psychologically. On one side, younger soldiers who are tired of war, tired of suffering, tired of pride that brings nothing but pain. They look at Hiroshi with understanding. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's okay to accept help. Maybe the war is truly over. On the other side, older soldiers, officers, men who have lived their entire lives by the code, men who cannot change now. They look at Hiroshi with disgust and disappointment. To them, he represents everything wrong. The weakness of the new generation. The loss of traditional values. The peanut butter isn't just food anymore. It's become a symbol, a test, a choice. Do you cling to the old ways even if it means suffering? Or do you accept that the world has changed, even if it means abandoning everything you believed? This tension will only grow worse, and by the second night it almost turns violent. Day 2 begins quietly. The sun rises over the camp. American guards change shifts. New supplies arrive. Everything seems normal on the surface, but underneath tension simmers. By breakfast, the camp has split into 2 clear groups. About half the prisoners now eat peanut butter. They spread it on the white bread the Americans provide. Some eat it straight from the jar with their fingers. They're hungry. They're practical. The war is over. Why suffer unnecessarily? The other half refuses completely. They eat only the rice and vegetables when offered. They avoid anything too American, too foreign, too different from home. They sit separately at meals. They don't talk to the others. They pretend the traitors don't exist. The Americans notice this division. The guards talk among themselves. Half of them won't touch the peanut butter. Wonder what that's about. Maybe they don't like the taste. Or maybe it's something cultural? They don't understand, but they sense the growing hostility between the 2 groups. At lunch, the division becomes more obvious. The 2 groups sit on opposite sides of the mess hall. They don't make eye contact. The silence is thick and uncomfortable. American guards stand ready, sensing potential trouble. Then it happens. A young prisoner named Kenji, maybe 19 years old, reaches for a jar of peanut butter. His hand is shaking slightly. He's been watching others eat it. He's so hungry. He just wants to try it. An older officer, Captain Yamada, slaps the jar from Kenji's hand. It crashes to the floor. Glass shatters. Peanut butter spreads across the concrete. The entire hall goes silent. "You shame us all," Captain Yamada yells in Japanese. His voice echoes. His face is red with rage. "Have you no honor? Have you no pride? We are Japanese soldiers. We do not accept charity from our enemies." Kenji stares at the broken jar. His eyes fill with tears. He's trembling now, but not from fear. From anger. From frustration. From hunger. He clenches his fists. "I'm hungry," Kenji says quietly. His voice shakes. "My family is starving in Japan. My mother wrote that my little sister died from hunger. And you care about honor? You care about pride? What good is honor when children are dying?" This question hangs in the air like smoke. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Because Kenji's words cut through all the philosophy, all the tradition, all the codes of honor. He's speaking a painful truth that everyone knows but nobody wants to acknowledge. American guards move closer, ready to separate the men if necessary. The interpreter finally arrives, catching the tail end of the argument. He quickly explains to the sergeant what's happening. "They're fighting about the peanut butter, sir. Some see it as surrender. Others see it as survival." The sergeant nods slowly, beginning to understand. This isn't about food. It's about identity. It's about what it means to be Japanese in a world where Japan has lost. Captain Yamada stands rigid, breathing heavily. Kenji slowly bends down and picks up the unbroken part of the jar. There's still peanut butter inside. He looks Captain Yamada in the eye. Then deliberately he scoops some out with his fingers and eats it. The older prisoners gasp. This is open defiance. Kenji has chosen his side. That night the two groups sleep on opposite sides of the barracks. The division is complete now. Friends no longer speak. Brothers in arms have become enemies again, but this time, they're enemies with each other. The American guards increase patrols, worried about violence. Then a letter arrives that changes everything, and resolves this conflict in a way nobody expected. Day 3. The morning sun barely breaks through the clouds. A Red Cross truck pulls up to the camp gates. The back is filled with canvas bags, mail from Japan, letters from home. The first communication many of these prisoners have received in months. The camp commander announces mail call. Prisoners gather quickly, hope lighting their faces for the first time. Names are called out slowly, carefully. Some prisoners receive letters. Others don't. Those who receive nothing try to hide their disappointment. Those who receive letters clutch them like precious treasures. Captain Yamada, the same man who slapped the peanut butter jar away yesterday, receives 3 letters, all from his wife. He takes them with shaking hands. He walks to a quiet corner of the camp, sits on the ground, opens the first letter carefully. His wife's handwriting is shaky. The paper is thin, cheap. He can tell she's struggling. The first letter is from 2 months ago. She writes about food shortages, about standing in line for hours to get a handful of rice, about their daughter getting thinner. He opens the second letter. 1 month ago. Things are worse now. The daughter is sick, too weak to stand. There's no medicine available. The hospitals are overwhelmed. His wife is begging neighbors for food, anything, even scraps. Captain Yamada's hands tremble as he opens the third letter. This one is from 2 weeks ago. He reads the first line. "Our daughter died yesterday." He stops breathing. Reads it again. "Our daughter died yesterday." The words don't make sense. His little girl, 7 years old, always smiling, always singing, gone. His wife continues. "She hadn't eaten in 2 weeks. Her body couldn't fight anymore. She called for you at the end, asked when Papa was coming home. I told her you'd be home soon. I lied to her. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't save her. I'm sorry." Captain Yamada sits motionless. The letter falls from his hands. Other prisoners notice. They see his face. They know something terrible has happened. But they give him space. Respect his grief. For 20 minutes he sits there, not moving, not speaking, just staring at nothing. Then slowly he stands. His movements are mechanical, empty. He walks toward the supply area where the Americans distribute food. An American guard sees him approaching. "Need something, sir?" The interpreter translates. Yamada's voice is barely a whisper. "Peanut butter, please." The guard is surprised. This is the officer who caused yesterday's incident. But the guard sees the tears, sees the broken expression. He doesn't ask questions, just hands over a jar. Captain Yamada sits right there on the ground, unscrews the lid, and begins eating. Not with bread, not with anything, just scooping it out with his fingers and eating it, fast, desperate, Like he's trying to fill a void that can never be filled. He eats the entire jar, then asks for another, and another. The guards give them without question. Other prisoners watch in absolute silence. Their strongest voice of resistance has just surrendered, not to the Americans, to reality. When Yamada finally stops eating, he looks up at the other resistant prisoners. His face is smeared with peanut butter and tears. He speaks in Japanese, loud enough for everyone to hear. My daughter died while I refused food because of pride. What kind of honor is that? What kind of father am I? The war is over. Let it be over. The impact is immediate. One by one, the resistant prisoners walk to the supply area. They ask for peanut butter. They ask for bread. They ask for everything they've been refusing. By sunset, nearly every prisoner in the camp has accepted American food. The division is healing. The conflict is ending. All because one man's grief broke through decades of cultural programming. But this raises the bigger question: why did peanut butter create such deep emotions in the first place? To understand why peanut butter caused such powerful reactions, you need to understand Japanese food culture. In Japan, food is sacred, not just fuel for your body. It's art, it's respect, it's meditation. It's connection to everything that came before you. Every traditional Japanese meal follows strict principles. The arrangement on the plate matters. The colors must balance, 5 colors representing 5 elements: white, black, red, yellow, and green. The cooking methods must vary: raw, grilled, steamed, fried, and simmered. Even the order you eat things is important. Rice comes first, always. It's the foundation. Then soup, then side dishes in a specific sequence. You never rush. You never waste. You appreciate every bite. You thank the food for giving its life to sustain yours. Japanese cuisine values harmony above all. The 5 tastes must balance: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Nothing too strong. Nothing too bold. Everything in perfect proportion. This philosophy extends beyond food. It's how Japanese culture approaches everything: balance, harmony, nothing too much, nothing too little. Peanut butter breaks every single one of these rules. It's aggressively flavored, just sweet and salty. Nothing else. No balance, no subtlety, no harmony. It's bold and unapologetic. The texture is wrong. Smooth or chunky both feel unnatural. It's thick and sticky, coating your mouth. Japanese food is never like this. Japanese textures are clean, light, delicate. You don't eat peanut butter with chopsticks. This alone is disturbing. Chopsticks represent civilization, control, refinement. Using them correctly shows you were raised properly. But peanut butter? You need a knife, a fork, or just your fingers. There's no elegant way to eat it. It doesn't fit into any meal structure. It's not a main dish, not a side dish, not a dessert. What is it? When do you eat it? How do you eat it? There are no rules, no ceremony, no respect for order. For American soldiers, peanut butter meant comfort, home, childhood, safety, a mother making lunch, a father coming home from work, baseball games and picnics. Simple happiness. When they offered it to Japanese prisoners, they were offering love in the only way they knew how. Here, this makes us happy. Maybe it will make you happy too. But for Japanese prisoners, that same jar represented chaos. Everything unfamiliar about America packed into one container. Strange taste, strange texture, strange way of eating. It challenged every food rule they'd learned since childhood. It suggested that maybe their rules didn't matter. Maybe their traditions were wrong. Maybe their entire way of thinking was outdated. This wasn't about food at all. It was about identity. Accepting peanut butter meant accepting that Japanese culture would have to change, that the old ways might not survive, that they might return home to a different Japan, or worse, that they might become different Japanese people. And that fear? That fear was terrifying. Imagine believing something your entire life. Your parents believed it. Your grandparents believed it. Your ancestors going back 1,000 years believed it. And then suddenly you're holding a jar that says all of that might be wrong. That's what peanut butter represented to these men. And this cultural divide between East and West, it still affects international relations today in ways you wouldn't believe. The psychological divide that peanut butter revealed in 1945 still shapes how Eastern and Western cultures interact today. It's not just about food anymore. It's about fundamental differences in how we think about life, identity, and change. Western culture, especially American culture, celebrates individual choice. Be yourself. Follow your dreams. Try new things. Don't let anyone tell you who to be. This sounds positive, right? Freedom, independence, self-expression. These are core Western values. Change is good. Innovation is praised. Think different, as the saying goes. Eastern culture, especially traditional Japanese culture, values group harmony. Respect your elders. Honor your family. Follow tradition. The group is more important than the individual. This also sounds positive, right? Stability, respect, community. These are core Eastern values. Tradition is good. Continuity is praised. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down, as the Japanese proverb says. Neither approach is wrong. Both have strengths. Both have weaknesses. Western individualism creates innovation and freedom, but can lead to loneliness and social breakdown. Eastern collectivism creates stability and belonging, but can suppress individual expression and slow change. In modern international relations, these differences cause constant friction. American business people come to Japan expecting quick decisions. Let's innovate. Let's disrupt. Let's move fast. Japanese business people want consensus. Let's consider carefully. Let's respect tradition. Let's make sure everyone agrees. Both sides get frustrated. Americans think Japanese are too slow. Japanese think Americans are too reckless. In the prison camp, these differences became extreme. Americans couldn't understand the resistance. We're giving you good food. Free food, why are you refusing? Don't you understand we're trying to help? Their cultural programming said that individual choice matters. If you're hungry, you eat. Simple, logical, why complicate it? Japanese couldn't understand the pushiness. Why don't they respect our choice? Why are they forcing their ways on us? Don't they understand this is about more than food? Their cultural programming said that accepting foreign ways threatens group identity. It's not simple. It's never simple. This same misunderstanding has repeated throughout history. When Western countries tried to modernize Japan in the 1800s, Japanese leaders resisted violently at first. Not because modernization was bad, but because it threatened Japanese identity. When Japan finally did modernize, they did it in their own way. They took Western technology but kept Japanese culture. They proved you could have both. The peanut butter conflict was this larger struggle in miniature. Can we change without losing ourselves? Can we accept foreign influences without becoming foreign? Can Japanese people eat American food and still be Japanese? These questions weren't just academic. They were deeply personal. They cut to the core of who these men were, and the answer they eventually found. Yes, you can accept new things and keep your identity. Culture isn't that fragile. Japanese prisoners who ate peanut butter didn't become American. They became Japanese people who had experienced something new. That's all. Their core identity remained, but this realization came slowly, painfully, with much resistance. And as we'll see, the Japanese military's understanding of this issue was dangerously wrong, because what they discovered about peanut butter before the war ended, it led to decisions that cost thousands of lives, and the classified order they issued, it remained secret for over 30 years because it proved how badly they misunderstood their enemy. Let's go back in time, 1 year before the war ends. 1944. Japan is losing, though many don't want to admit it. Island by island, the Americans are advancing. Japanese military intelligence works desperately to understand their enemy. Why are American soldiers so effective? What makes them strong? How do we defeat them? In August 1944, Japanese forces capture an American supply depot in the Philippines. Inside, they find crates of supplies meant for U.S. troops: food, medicine, weapons, ammunition, standard military supplies. But the intelligence officers notice something unusual. Among the rations, there are hundreds of jars of peanut butter. Hundreds, they're confused. Why so much of this one food? Is it medicine? Is it special nutrition for combat? They take samples back to Tokyo for analysis. Scientists study it. Nutritionists examine it. Military strategists debate its significance. A report is commissioned. Analysis of American soldier psychology through food supply. A team of 12 officers works on it for 3 months. They interview Japanese soldiers who fought Americans. They study captured American diaries and letters. They analyze supply manifests from multiple captured depots, all trying to answer one question. What is the significance of peanut butter? In December 1944, the report is finished. 63 pages. Stamped top secret. Only distributed to the highest-ranking commanders. The conclusion? Americans are psychologically dependent on comfort items. They cannot fight effectively without reminders of home. Peanut butter is emotional support, not practical nutrition. The report states, American soldiers require frequent morale boosters to maintain fighting spirit. They need letters from home. They need familiar foods. They need entertainment. Without these comforts, American morale collapses. This reveals a fundamental weakness in American military culture. The report continues. Japanese soldiers, by contrast, can endure any hardship. They need nothing but rice and duty. They fight for the emperor without complaint. They accept suffering as part of Bushido. This is our advantage. This is our strength. Based on this report, Imperial General Headquarters issues Order 387 on January 18, 1945. The order is direct. Reduce rations for Japanese troops by 30%. If the enemy needs comfort to fight, we will prove our superiority through greater endurance. Our soldiers will demonstrate that the Japanese spirit is stronger than any Western soldier. The order is marked classified. Only generals and colonels are informed. Regular soldiers and junior officers never learn the real reason their food is being cut. They're just told supplies are limited. Endure with dignity. This is your duty. The military leadership genuinely believes this strategy will work. They've studied the evidence. They've reached a logical conclusion. Americans are soft. They need comfort. Japanese are hard. They need nothing. Therefore, making Japanese soldiers even harder will create an advantage. It's perfectly logical, and it's completely catastrophically wrong, because this order, based on a fundamental misunderstanding of peanut butter and psychology, led to a death toll that wouldn't be revealed for decades. Order 387 is implemented across all Japanese forces in February 1945. Rice rations drop from 800 grams per day to 560 grams. Meat and fish become almost non-existent. Vegetables are scarce. Soldiers are expected to endure with dignity. Within weeks, the effects are visible. Soldiers become weaker. They move slower. They think less clearly. Malnutrition affects everything. Physical strength decreases. Immune systems fail. Diseases spread rapidly. Beriberi from vitamin B1 deficiency. Scurvy from vitamin C deficiency. Anemia from iron deficiency. But the military leaders see this as temporary. They will adapt. The Japanese spirit will overcome physical weakness. They double down on their strategy. Comfort is weakness. Suffering is strength. This is the Bushido way. Meanwhile, American soldiers eat well, not luxuriously but adequately. They get 4,500 calories per day. Meat, bread, vegetables, and yes, peanut butter. The peanut butter provides protein, healthy fats, and calories. It's actually good nutrition disguised as comfort food. American soldiers stay strong. They're well-fed, well-rested when possible. Their combat effectiveness remains high. Not because they're better warriors, but because they're properly nourished. The Japanese military misread everything. They saw peanut butter and thought, emotional, weakness. They should have thought smart logistics. They saw American care for soldier welfare and thought soft, culture. They should have thought strategic advantage. A well-fed soldier fights better, thinks clearer, heals faster, makes better decisions, survives longer. This isn't weakness. This is intelligence. In March and April 1945, the contrast becomes stark. American forces advance steadily. Japanese forces resist desperately but ineffectively. Part of this is superior American equipment and numbers. But part of it? Hunger, exhaustion, disease. Japanese soldiers are brave but starving. Discipline can't overcome malnutrition forever. After Japan surrenders, military records are seized by Allied forces. American analysts discover Order 387. They're shocked. They intentionally starved their own soldiers? Because they thought we were weak for feeding ours? The irony is painful. Medical examiners studied deceased Japanese soldiers. Cause of death, combat, yes, but also malnutrition, starvation, disease from weakened immune systems. How many of these deaths were caused by Order 387? Impossible to know exactly. But estimates range from 15,000 to 30,000 soldiers who might have survived with proper nutrition. The order remains classified by the new Japanese government. It's too embarrassing, too painful. Admitting that military leadership killed its own soldiers through prideful stupidity? That truth stays buried. The files are sealed. Marked not for public release, the secret holds for 31 years. In 1976, a Japanese historian researching wartime logistics discovers references to Order 387. He requests the files through Freedom of Information laws. After months of legal battles, the documents are released. The truth comes out. The revelation causes controversy in Japan. Some defend the order. They believed they were doing the right thing. They were acting on the best information they had. Others condemn it. Pride killed our soldiers. Misunderstanding killed our brothers. This is inexcusable. But one fact becomes undeniable. The Japanese military mistook self-care for weakness. They mistook suffering for strength, and soldiers paid the price with their lives, all because of a fundamental misunderstanding about peanut butter, psychology, and what actually makes soldiers effective. And the evidence of this terrible mistake became clear in how POWs recovered after the war ended. After the war ends, military doctors face a massive challenge. Thousands of Japanese POWs need medical evaluation before returning home. American and Allied medical teams document everything: weight, nutrition levels, disease presence, mental health. They create detailed records, not knowing these will become valuable historical data. The doctors notice something interesting. Recovery rates vary dramatically between prisoners. Some regain health quickly, others stay weak for months. At first, doctors assume it's based on how long they were prisoners, or how badly they were treated before capture. But that's not the pattern they find. Dr. Richard Morrison, a U.S. Army physician, starts comparing groups systematically. He divides prisoners into categories based on their behavior in camp. Group A, prisoners who accepted American food, including peanut butter, within the first week. Group B, prisoners who resisted for more than 2 weeks before accepting. Group C, prisoners who never fully accepted American food, eating only minimal rice. The results are striking. Group A recovers 60% faster on average. Within 3 months, they've gained healthy weight. Their muscle mass returns. Blood tests show normal vitamin levels. Infection rates are low. Most importantly, psychological evaluations show lower rates of depression and anxiety. They smile more, talk more, show interest in the future. Group B recovers moderately. It takes them 5 to 6 months to reach similar health markers. They gain weight more slowly. Some vitamin deficiencies persist. Psychological evaluations show moderate depression rates. They function, but they're not thriving. Group C, many never fully recover. Even after 8 months, they remain underweight. Chronic health problems persist. Dental issues, digestive problems, weakened immune systems, and psychologically they show the highest rates of post-war trauma. Nightmares, flashbacks, severe depression. Some require long-term mental health care. Dr. Morrison writes in his report, "The physical benefits of proper nutrition are obvious and expected. What surprises us is the psychological component. Prisoners who accepted help early showed resilience. They adapted to change. They maintained hope. Those who resisted longest seem stuck in wartime mentality. They cannot move forward." Another doctor, Captain James Chen, adds observations. "It's not just about the food itself. It's about what accepting the food represented psychologically. Prisoners who ate peanut butter were saying, 'I accept that the war is over. I accept that I need help. I accept that survival matters more than pride.' Those who refused were saying, 'I cannot let go of who I was. I cannot accept this new reality.' The mind affects the body more than we realized. The data proves something profound about human psychology. Hope helps healing. Acceptance enables recovery. Holding on to the past, even when the past is painful, prevents moving forward. The prisoners who adapted quickly weren't betraying their culture. They were surviving. And survival, it turns out, is the most Japanese thing possible. These medical records are published in 1948 in military medical journals. They become important data for understanding prisoner psychology. For decades afterward, they're cited in studies about trauma recovery, cultural adaptation, and the mind-body connection. The peanut butter incident becomes a case study taught in military psychology courses. But the most touching part of the story? Some of these recovered prisoners never forgot the kindness they received, and 50 years later they decided to do something about it. 50 years pass. Half a century. 1945 becomes history. The prisoners become old men. Many die, many try to forget. But some never forget the moment that changed their lives. In 1993, a group of former Japanese POWs begins meeting in Tokyo. They're all in their 70s now. Gray hair, wrinkled faces. But when they talk about the war, about the camps, about the peanut butter, they become young again. The memories are vivid. Do you remember that American guard who smiled? Do you remember the first time we tasted peanut butter? Do you remember Captain Yamada crying? One of them, Hiroshi Tanaka, yes, the same man who bowed, makes a suggestion. We should go back to America. We should thank them properly. We're old now. Some of us won't live much longer. Before we die, we should say thank you. The idea spreads. 15 former prisoners agree to make the trip. They start planning, fundraising, finding the camp locations, trying to identify which guards were there. It's difficult. Records are scattered. Many Americans have also died. But they're determined. August 1995, exactly 50 years after the surrender, a group of elderly Japanese men lands in San Francisco. They're nervous, excited, emotional. Some have never been to America since the war. Some are returning for the first time. Will they remember us? Will they want to see us? Are we doing the right thing? The American Veterans Organization helps arrange the reunion. They locate 7 former guards who are still alive and able to travel. The meeting is scheduled at a community center in California. Media is invited. This is news. Former enemies reuniting after 50 years. The day arrives. The Japanese veterans arrive first. They're dressed formally, suits and ties. They've brought gifts, carefully wrapped. They pace nervously. Will they recognize us? We look so different now. The American veterans arrive. They're also elderly now, walking canes, some in wheelchairs. They're also nervous. I wonder if they hated us. We were their captors after all. The first moment is awkward. Two groups of old men standing across a room, staring at each other. 50 years of history between them. Then one Japanese veteran steps forward. It's Hiroshi Tanaka. He walks slowly across the room toward an American veteran. He stops, looks at the man's face carefully. "Joe? Guard Joe?" he asks in broken English. The American veteran's eyes widen. "Hiroshi? Is that you?" They embrace, both crying. Other veterans start moving, recognizing each other, or just embracing anyway, even if they don't remember specifically. The barriers dissolve instantly. These aren't enemies. These are old men who shared a moment in history. They sit together at tables, looking at old photographs, sharing stories, laughing at memories. Remember when you tried to teach us baseball? Remember when you couldn't figure out how to use chopsticks? The language barrier is still there, but interpreters help. And really, they don't need many words. The emotion is universal. Then Hiroshi stands. He taps his glass to get everyone's attention. The room goes quiet. He reaches into his bag and pulls out a jar. A modern jar of peanut butter. Japanese brand. Made in Tokyo. He holds it up. Through the interpreter, he speaks. 50 years ago, an American soldier handed me a jar like this. I was starving, scared, lost. That jar saved my life. Not because of the food, though the food mattered, but because it showed me that my enemy saw me as human. That kindness still exists even in war. I lived because of that kindness. I got married, had 3 children. Now I have 7 grandchildren. All of this life, it exists because someone cared enough to feed me. I brought this jar from Japan to say something very simple. Thank you. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for caring. Thank you for letting me live. He bows deeply. The same bow he did 50 years ago. But this time there's no shame. No controversy. Just gratitude. Every person in that room is crying. Americans, Japanese, reporters, everyone. But the most surprising part of this story? What happened to peanut butter in Japan itself? Today, if you walk into any supermarket in Tokyo, you'll find an entire shelf dedicated to peanut butter. Not just American brands, Japanese brands, dozens of varieties. This would have been unthinkable in 1945. But Japan didn't just accept peanut butter. They transformed it, made it their own. This is what Japan does brilliantly. Takes foreign concepts and reimagines them through a Japanese lens. Japanese peanut butter is different from American peanut butter. It's smoother, less sweet, more refined. The texture is silkier. Some brands add sesame seeds, creating a fusion flavor. Others add matcha green tea powder, or yuzu citrus, or even miso. These aren't American flavors anymore. They're Japanese interpretations. In trendy Tokyo restaurants, chefs use peanut butter in creative ways. Peanut butter mochi desserts, peanut butter ramen with spicy broth, peanut butter incorporated into traditional wagashi sweets. High-end bakeries make peanut butter croissants that cost $8 each. It's not just accepted, it's celebrated. Young Japanese people eat peanut butter without thinking about its history. For them, it's just normal food. They spread it on bread for breakfast. They add it to smoothies. They use it in cooking. The cultural controversy from 1945? Completely forgotten by this generation. This transformation shows something beautiful about culture. Culture isn't fragile. It doesn't break when it touches other cultures. It's actually incredibly resilient. Japanese culture absorbed peanut butter and remained deeply Japanese. The tea ceremony still exists. Traditional cuisine still exists. Respect for ancestors still exists. None of that disappeared because people started eating peanut butter. In fact, Japan proves you can have both. You can honor tradition and embrace change simultaneously. You can eat peanut butter for breakfast and traditional miso soup for dinner. You can watch Hollywood movies and read Japanese literature. You can do both. You can be both. This is the lesson those prisoners learned in 1945, but it took Japan as a whole another generation to fully understand. Change doesn't erase identity. It expands it. The prisoners who were so afraid of losing themselves? Their fear was understandable but ultimately unnecessary. Japanese people today are still unmistakably Japanese, but they're also global, connected, open. They've taken elements from dozens of cultures and made them Japanese. Peanut butter is just one small example. There's actually a museum in Japan now, the Peace Museum in Osaka. They have an exhibit about POW camps. And in that exhibit, a jar of vintage American peanut butter from 1945. Under it, a plaque reads, "This simple food taught us that accepting help is not weakness, that our former enemies could become friends." That culture grows stronger through exchange, not isolation. Thousands of Japanese school children visit that exhibit every year. They see the peanut butter jar. They read the story. And they learned something their great-grandfathers had to learn the hard way. The world is bigger than we think. And that's okay. That's good, actually. But why does this 70-year-old story about peanut butter still matter today? We live in divided times. Countries arguing over borders. Cultures clashing over values. People refusing to understand each other. Social media amplifies every difference. Every disagreement becomes a battle. Every compromise feels like surrender. We've forgotten how to bridge gaps. We've forgotten how to see humanity in people who are different from us. The peanut butter story teaches us something we desperately need to remember. Small acts of kindness matter more than we think. Much more. Those American guards didn't end the war by offering peanut butter. They didn't solve decades of conflict. But they did something equally important. They saw their prisoners as human beings, not as enemies, not as others, as humans who were hungry and scared and far from home, and that recognition, that simple act of seeing someone's humanity, it changed lives. It saved lives. Hiroshi Tanaka lived to have grandchildren because someone handed him a jar of peanut butter with kindness. Captain Yamada found the strength to heal because American guards gave him food without judgment, even after he'd been hostile. Sharing food breaks down walls that weapons cannot. This isn't just poetry, it's proven fact. Anthropologists have studied this. When cultures share meals, barriers lower. Guards drop. People become vulnerable in a good way. If you're willing to share your food with me, maybe you're not my enemy after all. Cultural exchange doesn't destroy identity. This was the prisoner's biggest fear. If we accept American food, we'll stop being Japanese. But it didn't happen. Japan accepted peanut butter and remained deeply Japanese. In fact, they became more Japanese by proving their culture was strong enough to absorb outside influences without breaking. This is true for every culture. American culture isn't weakened by sushi restaurants and yoga studios. It's enriched. Indian culture isn't destroyed by McDonald's, it's expanded. Culture is not a fragile thing that shatters at the first touch of something foreign. It's resilient. It's adaptive. It grows. The prisoners who accepted peanut butter quickly didn't stop being Japanese. They became Japanese people who also appreciated something new. That's all. That's everything. You can hold multiple identities. You can appreciate multiple cultures. You can be both. This is the future of humanity in a globalized world. Not erasing differences, but celebrating them while finding common ground. When we offer something from our culture, we're saying, I want to share my world with you. I want you to understand what I love. I want you to see through my eyes. When we accept something from another culture, we're saying, I'm willing to try. I'm willing to understand. I'm open to seeing the world differently. That's what those American guards were really offering. Not just peanut butter. An invitation. We want to understand you. We want you to understand us. Maybe we can be more than enemies. And eventually, despite fear and pride and cultural barriers and decades of propaganda saying they should hate each other, connection happened. Two groups of men who had been trying to kill each other found humanity in each other, over peanut butter, over simple kindness, over the recognition that we're all just humans trying to survive. Today we face similar divisions, different politics, different religions, different values, and it feels impossible to bridge these gaps. But the peanut butter story reminds us, start small, start with kindness, start with seeing the humanity in people who seem different. You don't have to agree with everything they believe. You just have to see them as human. That's the starting point for everything else. And there's one final story that proves why this lesson matters more than ever. Let me tell you about Captain Yamada. Remember him? The officer who lost his daughter, who slapped away the peanut butter, who eventually broke down and ate an entire jar while crying. Yamada returned to Japan in October 1946. He was broken, physically weak from malnutrition, emotionally devastated from loss. His wife had left their home, unable to bear the memories. He didn't blame her. He understood grief differently now. He found her living with her sister in Kyoto. They reunited, held each other, cried together, tried to rebuild. For 5 years they struggled. Yamada worked various jobs, construction, delivery, whatever he could find. Post-war Japan was chaos. Everyone was struggling, but slowly they healed. In 1951, his wife became pregnant again. They were terrified and hopeful at the same time. Could they survive losing another child? Could they bear that pain again? In March 1952, they had a daughter, perfectly healthy. They named her Akiko, child of autumn. They held her constantly, fed her carefully, protected her fiercely. She represented their second chance, their hope that life could be beautiful again. Yamada raised Akiko with a completely different philosophy than he'd been raised with. He told her stories about the war, about pride and suffering, about peanut butter and kindness, about learning the hard way that accepting help isn't weakness. Never let pride stop you from accepting help, he told her. Never let tradition stop you from trying new things. Be Japanese, yes, but be open, be curious, be willing to grow. Akiko grew up eating peanut butter. She loved it. She'd spread it thick on bread and eat it with strawberry jam, American style. Yamada would watch her and smile, sometimes cry a little, thinking about his first daughter who died hungry, thinking about how different things could have been. In 1970, when Akiko was 18, she announced she wanted to study in America. Yamada's first instinct was fear. America? So far away? But he remembered his own lessons. Don't let fear control you. Let her grow. Let her experience the world. Go, he told her. Learn, grow. Come back and teach us what you learned. Akiko studied at UCLA. She met an American student named David. They fell in love. She brought him to Japan to meet her parents. Yamada looked at this American man sitting in his home, his daughter's boyfriend, possibly his future son-in-law. For a moment he saw the American guards from 1945. Young, kind, just humans. Do you like peanut butter? Yamada asked through Akiko's translation. David, confused by the random question, said, Yes, sir. I do, Yamada smiled. Good. So do I. We have something in common. They married in 1975, had 3 children. Yamada's grandchildren are half Japanese, half American. They eat peanut butter and rice. They celebrate Christmas in Obon. They speak English and Japanese. They are living proof that you don't have to choose between cultures. You can be both. You can bridge worlds. Yamada lived until 1998. He was 83 years old. In his final weeks, his family gathered. All his grandchildren there. He looked at them. These beautiful children who wouldn't exist if an American soldier hadn't shown him kindness in 1945. Who wouldn't exist if he hadn't learned that accepting help is strength, not weakness. His last words, translated by Akiko, were simple. The war taught me to hate. Peanut butter taught me to love. I'm grateful I learned both lessons. But the second lesson? That's the one that gave me this beautiful life. This is why the peanut butter story matters. It's not really about food. It's never been about food. It's about the courage to accept help, the wisdom to adapt, the strength to let go of pride when pride serves no purpose, the recognition that our former enemies can become our friends, that different cultures can enrich each other. That change doesn't destroy identity, it expands it. Those Japanese prisoners in 1945 faced an impossible choice. Hold on to who they were and suffer, or accept change and lose themselves. They learned there was a third option. Grow, evolve, take the best from both worlds. Stay rooted in your identity while opening your arms to new experiences. That's the lesson we need today. In our divided world, in our suspicious times, in our echo chambers and tribal conflicts, we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to abandon our values. We just have to be willing to see the humanity in people who are different from us, to accept that different doesn't mean enemy. Different just means different, and different can be beautiful. Next time you see someone different from you, remember the peanut butter. Remember Hiroshi bowing. Remember Yamada crying. Remember that small acts of kindness can change everything. You never know what bridges you might build, what lives you might touch, what future you might create. If you found this WWII POW story fascinating, there are countless untold stories from World War II POW camps waiting to be discovered. The cultural shock Japanese POWs experienced with American food reveals surprising prisoner of war experiences that history books often miss. From peanut butter shock to other historical food reactions, these Japanese soldiers' POW food stories show us the human side of war. Want more surprising POW stories and WWII Untold? Next time you see someone different from you, remember the peanut butter. Remember Hiroshi bowing. Remember Yamada crying. Remember that small acts of kindness can change everything. You never know what bridges you might build, what lives you might touch, what future you might create. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, share it. The world needs more bridge builders, more people willing to offer their version of peanut butter to strangers. More people willing to accept kindness from unexpected places. See you in the next video.